Let us now learn about from and select, which are really the two essential components that you need in order to write the simplest SQL queries. Going back now to our data, let's say that we wanted to retrieve all of the data from the characters table in the fantasy dataset. Now, when you have to write a SQL query, the first question you need to ask yourself is, where is the data that I need? Because the first thing that you have to do is to retrieve the data, which you can then process and display as needed. So in this case, it's pretty simple. We know that the data we want lives in the characters table. Once you've figured out where your data lives, you can write the from clause. So I always suggest starting queries with the from clause. And to get the table that we need, we can write the name of the dataset, followed by a dot, followed by the name of the table. And you can see that BigQuery has recognized the table here. So I have written the from clause and I have specified the address of the table, which is where the data lives. And now I can write the select clause. And in the select clause, I can specify which columns of the table I want to see. So if I click on the characters table here, it will open in a new tab in my panel. And as you remember, it shows me here the schema of the table. And the schema includes the list of all the columns. Now I can simply decide that I want to see the name and the guild. And so in the select statement here, I will write name and guild. And when I run this, I get the table with the two columns that I need. And one neat thing about this, I could write the columns in any order. It doesn't have to be the original order of the schema, and the result will show that order. And if I wanted to get all of the columns of the table, I could write them here one by one, or I could write star, which is a shorthand for saying, please give me all of the columns. So this is the corresponding data to our table in Google Sheets. And if you want to visualize select in your mind, you can imagine it as vertically selecting the parts of the table that you need. For example, if I were to write select guild and level, this would be equivalent to taking these two columns over here and selecting them. Let us now think of the logical order of these operations. So first comes the from, and then comes the select. And this makes logical sense, right? Because the first thing you need to do is to source the data. And later you can select the parts of the data that you need. In fact, if we look at our schema over here, from is the very first component in the logical order of operations, because the first thing that we need to do is to get our data.